Okay, so emergency care for pets is high stakes, but it's also high growth. So VEG ER for pets has over 120 locations and they operate 24 hours a day. They've figured out exactly what a pet owner needs when their pet is in crisis. And I want to know more about this. This is kind of like a new concept for me. So our guest is Jennifer Hanlon, VP of Real Estate and Development at VEG ER for Pets. Live from Las Vegas, it's Where We Buy. That's right, you're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook.
And I'm Keish Virtue.
And we both research retail and real estate for JLL. And we are recording live from the JLL booth at ICSC Las Vegas 2026. It is hustling and bustling. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me.
So VEG ER, first of all, what is the name VEG? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so some backstory on the name. So we just went through what we're calling a right brand. Some people might be familiar with the brand as Veterinary Emergency Group. That's what we were going by until March of 2025. We right branded, we dropped it down to VEG with the modifier ER for pets. One, because Veterinary Emergency Group is a very long name, and it's also not that memorable. You know, people were coming to us, but they're not remembering the full name. And it's also really hard to put on a building. So our signage was getting really small because you have 24 letters. So we dropped it down to VEG and then ER for pets to show exactly what we do. We are an ER for pets.
I love it. So tell me a little bit more about what that looks like, both from the real estate side and the operations. Like when I visit, what's it like?
Sure. So I'll give you a little bit about the company super quick. So VEG ER for Pets, as the name entails, we're a nationwide group of emergency and urgent care hospitals for animals. We now have 131 locations in 34 states and Canada, which is super exciting for us. In terms of our operations, something that makes us really unique is that we are an open concept ER. I would argue that we're probably the only open concept ER in the country that grows exclusively through new locations. And what that means is when you come into a VEG, most of our facilities don't even have waiting rooms. So you come in directly to the back of the hospital, which means you get to stay with your pet for every step of their treatment. If they're getting surgery, you can watch. If they're getting stitches, you can hold them. It's a really customer-focused way of providing ER care. Very similar to how if you took your child to an ER, they would never take your child from you into the back of the hospital and say, you wait here, we'll come out when we're done. So we try to provide care in that manner.
That's fascinating. So typically, how much square footage do you usually use?
So our typical box is about 5,000 square feet. Sometimes we flex down to about 4,500. Sometimes we can flex up. It's about 5 though, because as an open concept, the action of the hospital is taking place like right in the middle. So we need somewhat of a box to be able to build out that open concept. And then we can move all the kind of back of house stuff like storage, laundry to the back of the box.
There's no waiting room.
There's no waiting room.
So I love it right there. But you go in, let's say I'm with my dog and she's sick and you're just like, come on in, let's take you right back to like an area, like is it like one of those curtained off areas like you see in ER?
No, it's not curtained off. So the way a visit to VEG works is all of our locations have a double vestibule. It's the safety of our employees. Something interesting about vet med, if you're unfamiliar, it's very women heavy. About 80% of our employees are women, and we're open 24 hours a day. So we want to make sure that no one is just walking in off the street into our facilities. So you come in through a double vestibule. It's also for the safety of the animals. God forbid an animal gets loose in the hospital. They don't have thumbs. They're not going to make it through 2 doors. So you come into the hospital and you enter directly into the treatment area. So what you're seeing is a treatment area with some treatment tables. And then what flanks the treatment area is we do have exam rooms. We can bring people into exam rooms if they're not comfortable being out in the open with their pet. They might have a pet that's not comfortable being around other animals. It could be an exotic animal. We also see exotics. We're pretty much the only nationwide group that sees exotics at every location. In vet med, an exotic is anything that's not a cat or a dog. So if you come in with a bird, we're probably going to put you in a room so your bird isn't flying around the hospital. And we triage in 60 seconds. So that is always the goal. You are walking directly into the hospital and you're being triaged and you're being seen by someone within 60 seconds. Similar though to a human ER, the most critical cases are then dealt with first. And then you are seated somewhere within the hospital to get your care. Something unique about our facility and our employees is that we sit on the floor with the pets. So if you come into a veg, you're going to see people sitting on the floor because that's where pets are most comfortable. You would never pick up a 90-pound lab and put them on a metal table. Like, they're going to be flailing. It's not going to be comfortable. So it's really focused on providing a customer service way that the pet parent feels comfortable and the pet feels comfortable.
Man, I'm loving this more and more.
It's very cool, right?
Yes, it is. So what does a perfect location look like to you then?
Yeah, so at this point, we know a lot about what makes a good veg. I've been with the company for 8 years and have been very lucky of our 131 locations to do, 126 of them. So we're a destination service provider. So no one runs into a veg after they run into a Target because you only come to us when you have an emergency. But we want people to know where veg is. It's top of mind because when they have that emergency, we want to be the first thought in their mind, I'm going to a veg. Similar to when you need sneakers, you're like, I'm going to go get Nikes. We want that to be the household name of like, I'm going to veg and I know exactly where it is because it's near the Costco, it's near the Whole Foods. So visibility is paramount for us, visibility and access. So people know where we are because they're passing us every day, whether they're driving to work or they're doing their errands. So that's what makes a good location for us. And what makes a good market is we tend to skew a little bit more regional. The average veg has about a 25-minute trade area. Huh? So people are very willing to drive to a veg, drive much further to a veg than they are to a coffee shop. So we try to co-locate with some of those more regional players.
That is just so epic because I was thinking to myself, okay, how do they really get their word out and distinguish themselves? And being able to see the name, the sign every single day when you're doing other things, and then there in that emergency, it's immediately top of mind. I love it.
Exactly, and that's what we're looking for is top of mind. Everyone knows exactly where we are. Eyeballs, traffic.
Awesome.
Jenny, you said you've done almost all the locations yourself. How did you get in so early? Like, what's the story behind you and veg?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's interesting, but it's an interesting story. So prior to veg, I was in commercial brokerage. It was my first job out of school. I was working on a commercial brokerage team in Westchester, New York, which is where veg is headquartered. And at the time, the group I worked for did a lot of different types of commercial real estate. We were doing industrial, we were doing office, we were doing retail. And my boss said, hey, we have an office tenant that needs help. And I had never done an office deal in my life. Never have since then. Never did an office deal ever. He's like, we have this veterinary company that needs office space. So I started working with Veg. And at the time, it was the 2 founders and 2 or 3 other employees. And worked with them for a little bit. And then fast forward maybe 9 months after I had been introduced, one of the co-founders reached out and said, hey, we have an opening on our business development team. Would you like to interview? And I was like, absolutely. But the business development team was just him. So then it was just him and me. And that was back in 2018.
The concept itself, it makes perfect sense, but it's also unique to me. Like, how did they come up with that? Is there a story behind it?
So one of our co-founders are both named David, but our co-founder, Dr. David Bessler, is an emergency veterinarian by trade. So he founded the company in 2014 with a focus on providing better ER care for the customer, as well as a better ER career for ER professionals. And so similar to the anecdote I told earlier about how you'd never go to the hospital and have your kid taken from you, that's kind of how he built the concept of Veg, of keeping people and their pets together. And I think something Veg has done amazingly well is really change the trajectory of emergency medicine as a career for people in vet med. Traditionally, it is not a sustainable career for a lot of people. We're open 24 hours a day. The work itself is very taxing. As you can imagine, you're coming to us as a customer in a time of need. That is taxing on the individuals that have to see these cases day in and day out. And I think the company has done an amazing job at flipping that culture upside down and creating a space where people want to work in vet med and they feel supported by the company that they're working for.
So 131 locations.
131.
Where regionally, is it Northeast right now?
We are all over. We're in 34 states. We're headquartered in New York. We're headquartered in White Plains, New York, which is just north of Manhattan. But we're in 34 states, and we just opened our first location outside of Toronto.
So when you come into Indiana, because we have chickens, and there's only one vet in the entire Indianapolis area that will take exotic, that will see our chickens.
So we have a site in Indy.
Oh, you do?
And then we have something coming in South Indy as well. So
okay.
We have 2 there. And
you guys must have opened recently then.
It's within I believe it was the last year or so.
Okay, yeah. So a number of years ago we had a sick chicken. Anyway, that's another story.
We would see the chicken though, just so you know.
Yeah. So growth plans for the future, what's your kind of number per year that you're looking to do?
We open about 30 locations a year. In 2025, we opened 26. For 2026, we'll open 32. We're on track, and our pipeline is closed for 2027, which is great. And we'll probably open 32 to 34. And then probably about 30 to 35 per year after that. We're focused right now on pretty much every major and minor metro in the United States, as well as expansion into Canada. We sign about 40 to 50 leases a year. We're busy.
What's it like working for such a quickly scaling operation like that?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel very, very lucky that I was able to witness and be a part of a company, pretty much scaling from the ground up. It's challenging in and of itself, though. You're working with a company that's figuring out what the growth plan is and getting to be part of that narrative, and things are constantly changing. But after 8 years, I think we have a good idea, at least on the real estate side, of what makes a good veg tick. How do we apply that to the different markets? And it's been a really fun job being able to get to be a part of that growth and build out the team and travel and, go to all these fun places and meet amazing people.
5,000 square feet. Do you have any practical considerations as far as you prefer end caps or isolated boxes or anything like that?
Yeah, that's the biggest question we get actually from real estate is like, what type of site do you like? And we're really flexible, actually. We'll do inline, we'll do end cap, we'll do freestanding. For us, it's really about the visibility. We play really well in the sandbox with all other tenants. We co-tenant directly with some of the big major QSRs, grocers, because all of our operations are internal. I think, 5-10 years ago when I was just starting out at VEG, it was really hard to sell that narrative of, hey, we want to be directly next to the Whole Foods, because people are like, like a vet directly next to the Whole Foods. It's a really high-end boutique build-out. Everything in the hospital, for the most part, the cabinets are custom. It's a very nice experience to come into a VEG. So we will take any type of real estate, to be honest, but it has to be, in the market that we want to be in the corridor. When we do our expansion, pretty much like everyone else, we have bullseye in the market, and then we kind of grade it from there. So, hey, like A+ would be here, A would be here, so on and so forth. And what can we tolerate in terms of giving up something?
Landlords get it, or does it take some time of some explaining for them to get what you guys are doing?
I think now a lot of them get it, which is great. With the rise of medtail, generally speaking, not just vet, but the med spas, the human urgent cares, dental, the narrative's a lot easier to sell, especially once people realize it's not that much different than having, a PetSmart in your center. The pets are really only outside when they're going from the parking lot into the facility. We don't do any boarding, so there's no outdoor or we're open overnight, but there's no outdoor or overnight boarding component to what we do. The pets are hospitalized, they're in cages, they're in runs. So we've been able to sell that narrative a lot more over the last few years, which makes my job easier.
So mentioning pet boarding and let's say pet grooming, is there a real bonus to being very close to those locations, sort of as a synergy?
It doesn't detract for us. I'd say something interesting about our business is about 40% of our case volume comes from referrals from the general practice community, which are veterinarians that are open, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5. They're doing your spays, your neuters, your vaccines. We do emergency and urgent care only, and it's on a walk-in only basis. So it's great to be near other pet retailers. That signals to us that there are pets in the market. We don't need to be directly next to them. In fact, we'd prefer not to be directly next to other vet services providers because it's confusing for the customer.
Okay.
Because, sometimes they don't know. They just see the word, hospital, clinic, pet, and they're like, oh, I got to go in there. I'm having an emergency. So as long as there's some spacing between that. But yeah, we love all the other pet retailers. And the closer we can be to them, the better, because it demonstrates that there is a need in that market.
Do you have a sense of what the most common types of visits are? Is it like, I don't know, a lot of, dogs running in front of cars? Oh, this got gruesome. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe reset. Yeah, what's the most common type of visit, do you think?
I should know. Clinically, I'm not going to be able to use the correct terms, but I know we do a lot of urgent care work. So, not to be gross, like my dog is like throwing up or they have diarrhea or like something unsavory that no one on this podcast wants to hear about. It's a lot of work like that, but we also do handle all major emergencies. So our doctors can cut surgery. We can go into surgery. We do a lot of foreign bodies. So if your dog eats something and it can't be scoped out, we're cutting them open. But it's, kind of a whole host. And there's not many things we can't see. Of course, if it's a specialty type of service, we will refer you to, if you need to see an oncologist or cardiologist, we'll refer that out. We don't provide specialty services, but we do provide a whole host of services above and beyond what a general practice or like an urgent care only player could provide.
And you do end-of-life care as well, right?
We do. So all of our hospitals have what we call a comfort room. So it's an exam room that doubles as kind of an end-of-life room where we can do euthanasias there.
Yeah. That's tough. Keisha, you recently went through that with a pet, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. But it wasn't... I've been through it where I've had to be in the end-of-life situation with a very close friend whose cat I absolutely adored. And that was very sad. But my cat escaped, ran out and just got lost in the Georgia wilderness with snakes. It was just an awful list. But anyways,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry to bring up this.
I know. Sad.
Well, that's the thing is you talk about pets. You're talking about some of the best memories in people's lives, but also big heartbreaks too.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot on my team. So working on the real estate team for VEG, sometimes we can feel somewhat siloed. A big chunk of the work that we do is external. It's not people inside the company. We're working with brokers and landlords and developers. So we're always trying to bring ourselves back to the mission. So the mission of VEG is helping people and their pets when they need it most. And there's a lot of times people are walking into our facility and it is the worst day of their life, thus far. So we like to see ourselves on the real estate team kind of as the gatekeeper to the VEG experience. Before you even walk into our facility with your pet, whether they're having a minor emergency or a major emergency, you got to be able to find us. You got to be able to access us. You got to be able to park. Like if you're having a hard time, you can see us, but you don't know how to get to us. You get to us, there's no parking. You're already upset during a time that's not so great. So we see ourselves as how do we set the foundation for our hospital teams to be able to provide the best care and the best service?
Yeah, you're the initial interaction with the service. So it's so important.
And the brand, you don't need us until you need us. So we want people to see the brand from afar and be like, oh, I always see that VEG.
Yeah, we had this border collie that we lost a couple of months ago, and it is it's so the person I don't want to go into too many details, but the gentleman who was helping with the euthanasia was so amazing. Like I'll never forget him. It was such one of those awful tough moments. But if somebody can do it right, they help you to begin to heal,
100%. And we call we call them veggies. So everyone that works for VEG is called a veggie. We're very punny. And all of our frontliners are superheroes. The work they do day in and day out is it's so rewarding for them, but it's very taxing. When a pet is coming in and they're dying and now you're doing that multiple times a day, multiple times a week. But I think VEG has done an amazing job, as I mentioned earlier, of making the career, as sad as it can be sometimes, very sustainable for doctors and nurses.
So bonus question. I don't know if you can answer this, but with all the animals in the open concept area, what's the craziest story you know about?
Ooh, to be honest, we don't get a ton of crazy stories as it relates to the open concept. That's one of the biggest operational questions we get, though, is how does the open concept work when you have all these animals there? One, the pets are sick. They're sick. They're not feeling good. They're not really making any noise. They're not really moving. We do have exam rooms that they can go into, though. So if we have a more excited dog, and maybe it's going into a room. So operationally speaking, it works really well. And I think something that we love about the open concept is that you get to interact with other customers, and there becomes sort of this air of we're in this together. And we've seen people go as far as overhearing, someone being really upset their pet's treatment is very expensive, and other customers will offer to pay for other customers' care. That doesn't happen often, but I think that's really rare. That would never happen at another facility because you're not seeing anyone else. And people comfort each other. I mean, sometimes it's not a great time, and we're all human, and the human interaction coupled with having your pet there is really special. I think the craziest story we have, though, is we did surgery on a goldfish once, this award-winning goldfish. Yep. So
award-winning goldfish. You gotta tell me
I don't
more.
really know that much about the goldfish, but I know we did surgery on it, and I saw a picture of it, and it was laying on a sponge, and it was asleep, and they were keeping it wet. So
Wow, that is amazing.
yeah.
What did it win an award for?
Apparently there's this whole community of like award-winning fish, and they sell for like large sums of money. I don't know the specifics, but I know that we had one in our hospital.
That's my next Google search for sure.
Yes. If you
Yeah.
go, I'm sure it's on our Instagram somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So you must be, do you visit all the sites yourself?
I do. So
Yeah.
our real estate team is small but mighty. I joke that we're the smallest team at the company. There's 5 of us on the entire team for all of North America. So we divide and conquer. We have 2 directors that split the country, and then there's myself. So basically, I consider myself half a deal maker. So we have 2.5 deal makers. So I do travel to every veg prior to the lease being executed. I want to make sure I get eyes on it and feel really comfortable that, hey, if we're signing up for a 10-year deal, that I've seen the site. So I get to travel all over. I've been to almost every state.
That's amazing.
Wow.
When you go to a site, are there ever red flags and what are they, that you didn't see initially?
So it's funny because at this point in our career, we've been doing this for so long. 9 out of 10 times when I see something on Google Maps, I'm like, yes, this is going to work. No, it's not going to work. And I'm always somewhat pleasantly surprised when I veto a site on our digital tour on Zoom, and then we get there and I'm like, oh, it's so much better in person, thank God. But sometimes it's the opposite. I'd say for us, co-tenancy is big and the surrounding community is big. We want people to associate the brand with a good experience, a higher end, more boutique feel. So making sure that when we go there, the parking lots are nicely paved. There's no trash anywhere. Safety is a huge thing for us, which you can not really do from your computer. So making sure that overnight there's not, transient individuals frequenting the parking lot. Anything that would make our team feel unsafe, because we often have doctors or nurses that are leaving the facility at 2 a.m. We have people coming in at 3 a.m. So we want to make sure that people feel safe walking into a veg. That's a really big piece of what we do on tour.
When people find out you work for VEG, do they start talking about their pets right away?
They do actually. It's funny, in the airport especially, we love to wear merch. So I wear my merch a lot, and one I get a lot of is, oh my God, do you work at VEG? It actually happened at the Vegas airport right when I got off the plane. She's like, do you work at VEG in White Plains, which is where we're headquartered? And I said, I work at, the office. And she went on and told this whole story about how amazing VEG was to her and her pet. And then second to that is people will stop me and be like, oh, do you work for VEG? Are you a vet? And then immediately start asking me a question. And I'm like, no. If you have a real estate question, for sure. But people seem to really love and resonate with the brand. We get a lot of repeat customers, and we get a lot of customers that come in and say, I wish you could be my general practice doctor. Like, I so greatly enjoy the service you provide me.
Is that a consideration for the future? Or?
So that is not a consideration. Our name quite literally is VEG ER for pets. ER is all we do, and we do it best. So we know what lane that we're in. I'm not going to sit here and say there won't potentially be other avenues we venture into in the future. But I think for now, we leave the general practice work to the general practitioners, and we fill that gap of, hey, when you're not open at midnight, we are there to serve the community.
Excellent. I love it.
Yeah, so we got a lot of real estate listeners out there. If somebody's got a site they think is good for a veg, what's your email address?
So my personal email is jhanlon, which is HANLON @veg.com. And then our general email inbox is realestate@veg.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we'll see how overwhelmed you get.
Let's see how many emails we get.
from all the Where We Buy listeners out there.
I love it.
So we didn't ask you, do you have a pet?
I do. No one can see but you guys, but I have a Chihuahua.
Oh, so
yeah. Her name
adorable.
is Lulabelle, and she's 10.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I adore her.
So does she travel with you a lot?
You know what? I wish. She does not. She's an old lady now. So she's never been on a plane. I want to give that to her though, but my mom keeps telling me, like, she doesn't need that. Leave her be. But I would love to get her on a plane one day. But no, she does not travel with me, but she's adorable. My family's a Chihuahua family. I have a Chihuahua. My twin sister has a Chihuahua. My mom and dad have a Chihuahua.
Wow.
Yeah. Big
Wow.
Chihuahua family.
That's crazy.
What's the most interesting thing about Chihuahuas?
Oh, they're complex. They do not understand how little they are. But then when you couple that with the shaking, it's just it's very funny to look at.
So they've got big personality and a tiny body.
Big personalities and a tiny body. And they get a bad rap because they really love their human. She really just wants me. Strangers she could do without.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I've loved learning about VEG ER.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This was great. Thank you so
guys.
much.
And if you want to hear more interviews and retail insights, you can subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app. You can find us on Spotify, pretty much any podcast app you like. Just search for Where We Buy, and there we are, and you can hit subscribe. And you can find us on the web at wherewebuy.show. And that's a wrap.
Thanks. That was so great.
Thank you guys so much. That was fun.